How many movies from the past are created and then forgotten in time? And I'm not referring to lost media, that's a beast of its own. I'm referring to movies which release, maybe they release on VHS and then time moves on, video formats improve, you get higher resolution, you get 1080p, you get 4K, you just keep going up, and these 360p, 480p resolution movies of the past just get forgotten. No one cares about them, they don't get remastered, they don't get brought to DVD, they don't get brought to any of the other formats. That's the kind of movie I'm talking about, and I just want to shine a spotlight on one of my favourites. Yes, it's a Dragon Quest movie, of course it is, how did you guess? It's a movie that just deserves more attention than it gets, but we should probably start from the beginning. Dragon Quest The Emblem of Roto was a manga which was serialised in the Enix magazine monthly Shonen Gangan. It was released between the years of 1991 all the way through to 1997 and is hugely popular in Japan. The story told in the manga is set between the events of Dragon Quest III and Dragon Quest I, and I say it in that order because chronology, and in 1996 a small movie released which sort of fills in a little bit of a gap between chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the manga, where a 10-year time skip takes place. The movie was screened at Golden Week Anime Festival 1996, alongside two other movies, Violist of Hamelin and Magic Circle Guru Guru, but obviously, Emblem of Roto is the highlight. This was on April 20th of that year. The movie was then released 3 months later on home video for rental on July 21st. Then later again on December 21st with a retail release. Before I continue talking about the movie, because it takes place between chapters 1 and 2 of the manga, I'm going to have to very briefly summarise the content of chapter 1, so just give me a moment. 100 years after the descendants of Erdrick, the hero from Dragon Quest III, founded Lauren and Carmen, and lived in peace for some number of years, we start the story in Carmen and are introduced to the king, a warrior by the name of Luna Freya, and the pregnant queen. Now clearly there's a new monster problem afoot because everyone is readying up for battle, and as everyone marches off, Tarkin, the old man shown here, comes up to the pregnant queen and declares that he's had a vision. The baby is to become a true prince and absolutely must be named Aris. Cut back to the army and it's time for battle. There's lots of cool manga panels with fighting, charging, you know, other fighting things. After breaking through, they stumble upon a strange and frankly very creepy looking idol. When the king goes to destroy it, change of heart, oh no, king is possessed. Everyone gets home safe and sound, but now the king is just one big meanie. Once home, he's informed that everyone has chosen the name for his child without him, so he decides to consult with the evil idol that he brought back with him. He's told to give his son a demonic name. Once again, he has no say in the process. Given a demonic name, not only will he have the power of the hero because he is the bearer of the Emblem of Roto, but he will also bow before the Demon Lord. Imagine is the name of the Demon Lord. People start getting a little bit suspicious of the king, so a plan is hatched to extract the baby and the queen out of the kingdom to safety. Luna Freya, the warrior I mentioned previously, is the one who's going to protect the queen and the child and get them out of there. Luna Freya is given a magic ring, and now, very good news, the baby is born. They don't have time to get the baby and the queen out of there because the king orders his men to go, fetch them, bring the baby for the demonic christening. A struggle ensues and the queen calls out the name intended for the baby, Aris. The king transforms, more fighting, big demons, bad. The baby starts to glow, the demon king is defeated, everything is good. Luna Freya grabs the baby and the emblem and gets the hell out of there. Tarkin and Luna Freya trek through the desert, things are looking quite bleak. Luna Freya briefly loses track of Tarkin, very briefly, but as everything is looking sad and hopeless, a sand ship approaches with two new characters and Tarkin is on board. Told you it was brief. The two new characters we are introduced to are Giran and Kira. Everyone is taken on the sand ship, including baby Aris, Luna Freya, Tarkin, Kira and Giran, all to the village of Baharata, where everyone will be safe until chapter 2 or 10 years later. The movie follows Aris 7 years later, where he resides in the village of Baharata that he was taken to at the end of chapter 1. There he was trained, and continues to be trained, to become a hero, but unfortunately his magic fails him. Remember the boy that I just mentioned was introduced at the end of chapter 1? Well, this movie explores his and Aris's early relationship, although at this stage it's not much of a friendship. This just becomes more and more apparent throughout the movie, especially when Aris rescues and frees a fairy that has been captured by Kira. The boys dare each other to go to a local shrine at night, which is quite a dangerous endeavour as it turns out, and fetch a flower which grows only there. During this journey, Aris encounters the same fairy village where the fairy he rescued earlier in the movie happens to reside, and recognising his emblem, the chief of the village asks Aris to help them with a little problem at the shrine that he's already been dared to go to. Very convenient. Even more convenient is that the problem is they need the flower which Aris has already been sent to collect. This quest culminates in the awakening of Aris's innate hero power, as well as the blossoming friendship between himself and Kira. Aris also learns more of his heroic heritage and his destiny going forward, which sets everything up nicely in a nice little package for chapter 2 of the manga. Unfortunately, the movie, just like the manga, never received an official English release. But, due to the surprising popularity of anime and manga in Italy, it did actually receive an Italian VHS release, fully dubbed in Italian.
Capisco, è troppo pericoloso. Io ho proibito ai ragazzi di avvicinarsi al tempio e voi vi lamentate perché Arus non ha il coraggio di andarci.
I actually have the VHS from Italy right here. But still, it's a VHS, and the quality of VHS tapes just don't quite hold up to modern standards. The visual fidelity of this movie, as currently available, is, to put it very gently, absolutely bloody abysmal. It will inevitably put a lot of people off wanting to watch it, and it's not really a surprise that it's sort of ended up forgotten in the past in favour of much more modern and up-to-date movies. I so wish that this movie had released at least on DVD, if not on Blu-ray. It's a good movie, and it deserves better than the current format it's on. My dream is that it will one day receive a remaster, but I know that that's wishful thinking. You know, I do get it. Not everybody wants to watch 360p content. I just wish we could like CSI enhance the footage, just to bring it up to 1080p or 4K. That right there is probably the highest resolution frame of that movie that we will ever see. So how exactly did we get this frame? How can it be in such high quality when the movie is just so poor quality? It's really actually quite simple, because there is one thing I do have which can help us with that. One thing that I do have which gives us a glimpse at just the potential quality this movie could be is in this binder right here. Now this might look somewhat familiar. I have some of the original production cels for this movie in this folder, roughly 30 something of the cels. Now, that's not enough to remake the entire movie from scratch, but it is enough just to give us a glimpse at what could be. To create that frame from that movie in that high resolution, I scanned one of these cels at a ridiculous DPI. It was something like 20,000 by 10,000 pixels at the end, or more than that, but that's my estimate, because I don't quite remember. And then I scoured the movie, finding the exact frame where this cel is featured. From there, I can take a screenshot of that frame, overlay the cel, but it's still not perfect. There needs to be colour correction, there needs to be some additions. You might have noticed that the original cel actually doesn't contain the glow of the spell that he's casting, so that needed to be added in post. But in my opinion, the effort's worth it. We don't have the full movie, but it gives us a glimpse. And I just think it's really special to be able to see the original cels and the actual painted art and animation of these animators back in 1995-96 when they were making this film, and be able to do justice to their work. Now, there's no way anyone is going to completely reconstruct this movie from some cels just like this. Animation cels are clear celluloid sheets, which are painted and then layered on top of one another to create the frames from older animation. But like all things, they're in a state of constant decomposition. These cels will one day degrade, and cels that have degraded suffer from a quite known affliction known as vinegar syndrome. When a cell has been affected by vinegar syndrome, they start to shrivel, lose their shape, and they let off a very pungent smell which nobody wants to be around, and they have to be separated from all of the cels. Many of these cels will already be gone. And one day, very likely, all of them will be. I'm just the custodian of these cels until either I pass or they pass. I store them the best I can so they will last as long as possible. But as I say, we're not reconstructing the movie from these cels. That doesn't happen. That never happens. Typical animation is shot at 24 frames per second, but can be 8 to 12 frames in certain scenes or certain parts of a scene, such as backgrounds, foregrounds. It varies depending on what they're going for and budget. But you have to remember that it's not a one-to-one translation. It isn't one cell per one frame. It's however many cels are layered to create the scene per frame. Now, even with 8 frames per second or 12 frames per second, that's still an inordinate number of cels. There is no way that they're all still out there, and there is no way they could all be gathered in one place to be rescanned, reshot, and reconstructed. The chances of this realistically happening are slim to none, but I don't give up on anything. If someone somewhere were to uncover in their basement a still intact copy of the original film, and I don't mean the VHS, the original film that was shot and then processed. That's how you remaster original, old, animated and non-animated media. But the question is this film even worth it to preserve? Well, I wouldn't be making a video out of it if I didn't think so. This isn't a review per se. It was never meant to be. But I do love this movie. The stakes are low, there's no large, world-ending threat looming over the characters. At least, not as the focus of the film. Honestly, the movie is more like a theatrical release of a side quest in one of the games, and honestly, what's wrong with that? Not every movie needs to have a huge scope and huge ambitions to tell a nice, complete and cohesive story. And this movie does that. It's a great movie that more people should watch, and I just wish it was available in a higher quality. Here's another couple of remastered frames I've made from the cels I've got in here. And if you enjoyed this video and want more content just like it, then please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Go watch the movie.